we will discuss about obstructive airway disease. So today the topic is obstructive, but do you know what is the another type of airway disease? Restrictive. Good. So we have two types of diseases in airway, that is obstructive and restrictive. Now coming to the definition of obstructive airway disease. So in obstructive airway disease, there is increase in resistance in airflow. Means the airflow resistance, there is obstruction. So there will be, this can affect any part of the respiratory tract. So what are the features of obstructive airway disease? You can note down. So airflow limitation is progressive, means slowly the airflow obstruction is progressive, means from mild to moderate to severe. Then it is associated with inflammatory changes in the lung parenchyma, and FEV1 and FEV1 by FVC ratio is reduced. These are the three important features of obstructive airway disease. And FEV1 is forced expiratory volume in 1 second, and FVC is forced vital capacity. So you should know these two terms. Next, see, restrictive is not in our topic, but just for your idea, I have mentioned here that what is restrictive airway disease. So obstructive definition just now I have said, and this is the restrictive diseases are characterized by reduced expansion of lung parenchyma. That is, the volume expansion of lung parenchyma will be reduced, and total lung capacity is decreased. So these are the two features of restrictive lung disease. And the distinction is done by pulmonary function test, PFT. So we'll come to it at the end of the lecture. So the individuals who have obstructive airway disease, as I have said earlier, that the FEV1 by FVC ratio is very important. So in case of obstructive airway disease, the ratio is less than 0.7. This you should remember. So if the ratio is less than 0.7, that means it is obstructive airway disease. And in restrictive airway disease, just to give you an idea to how to differentiate between obstructive and restrictive, see here the ratio remains normal. So in obstructive it is less than 0.7, in restrictive the ratio is normal. So two kinds of restrictive airway disease, you should just know the names for today's class. That is chest wall disorders and chronic interstitial and infiltrative disease. So there are two types. So in chest wall disorders, the examples are severe obesity, pleural disease, kyphoscoliosis. And in chronic interstitial and infiltrative disease, we have pneumoconiosis and interstitial fibrosis. So this was in brief the difference between obstructive and restrictive, and also the types of restrictive airway disease. Now we will discuss today only obstructive lung diseases. So you must know that obstructive lung diseases are of three types. One is COPD. COPD is very common. You have heard the term chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, asthma and bronchiectasis. Now in COPD, we have two more types. So COPD, we have chronic bronchitis and we have emphysema. Emphysema and chronic bronchitis comprises COPD, and the main cause is cigarette smoking. So the most common etiology for COPD is cigarette smoking. Here is one chart, schematic chart, which you can note the spectrum of COPD. Chronic bronchitis, bronchiectasis, asthma and emphysema, in which you can see that the signs and symptoms are almost similar. The patients have cough, sputum production, dyspnea, wheezing. All these are the symptoms, and the occurrence is mainly in the bronchus or bronchiole. So this is the definition of COPD by WHO. So here you can note it is common, preventable and treatable. So we can prevent as well as treat COPD. That is characterized by respiratory symptoms, airflow limitation, and it is caused by exposure to noxious particles or gases. So this is the definition by WHO, the definition of COPD. So there is a strong association between heavy cigarette smoking and COPD, as well as there are some other risk factors like poor lung, some developmental disorder in early life, exposure to environment and occupational pollutants. Airway hyperresponsiveness, this is very important. So the airway in COPD patients is hyperresponsive, as well as some genetic polymorphisms can also occur. So what are the stages? Have you heard GOLD criteria? So GOLD criteria is to stage the COPD. So we have 4 types, stage 1, 2, 3 and 4, and this is based on FEV1, forced expiratory volume in 1 second. It is very important. See, stage 1 is mild, that is more than equal to 80%. Stage 2 moderate, 50 to 79. Stage 3 severe, 30 to 49, and stage 4 is very severe, that is less than 30%. So this is the GOLD criteria of staging COPD. So coming to emphysema. Emphysema, it is irreversible and the air spaces are dilated distal to the terminal bronchiole. So this is of 4 major types. So emphysema is of 4 types: centriacinar, panacinar, paraseptal and irregular. So the first 2 is very important, centriacinar and panacinar. So this is a diagram. Here you can see this is the diagram of normal acini. Normal acinus, the respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct and alveolus. In this image, there is centriacinar emphysema with dilatation. See, the respiratory bronchiole is dilated. And in panacinar emphysema, there is distension of the alveolus and the alveolar duct. So this is centriacinar and this is panacinar emphysema. So this is another image of centriacinar emphysema where we can see that there is emphysematous change. See this marked E. This is the emphysematous change. And in panacinar emphysema, it is involving the entire lung lobule. So this is centriacinar, this is pan. Pan means entire. So it is involving the entire lung lobule. Here is another image of emphysema where you can see the lung parenchyma is inflated and fixed. So these are the dilated changes in the lung parenchyma. This is an image of panacinar emphysema. See the air spaces, they are diffusely dilated all over the lung. So coming to the pathogenesis. So pathogenesis of emphysema is mostly due to smoking or air pollutant, as well as there is a genetic predisposition also. So all these will lead to oxidative stress, increased apoptosis and senescence, as well as there is release of inflammatory mediators. So there will be inflammatory changes in the lung parenchyma and protease antiprotease imbalance. So ultimately all this will lead to alveolar wall destruction, which is the chief component of emphysema, alveolar wall destruction. So the morphology is, we can see that there is hyperinflated lung. The lungs will be hyperinflated with bulla formation. bulla formation and loss of elastic recoil. So the lungs can recoil, but in emphysema, there is loss of recoil feature. So the upper two-thirds of lung is severely affected. So this is an image where you can see, these are bulla in the lung. It is on the surface of a patient with emphysema. See the large dilated air spaces. So there is loss of lung parenchyma and destruction of alveoli. These are the two main features of emphysema. This is another image of bullous emphysema. See the formation of bulla just beneath the pleura. So this is subpleural bulla in emphysema. So coming to the microscopy, in microscopy you have to remember only two features, that is destruction of alveolar septa and enlarged air spaces. Enlarged air spaces and destruction of alveolar septa, and the alveoli are separated by thin septa. So the septa is destroyed, there is fibrosis occurring in lung. So as the alveolar walls are destroyed, there will be decrease in capillary bed area, and there may be formation of abnormal air spaces and formation of large bulla in emphysema, and which will compress the respiratory bronchioles. So there can be compression in the lungs as well as the vasculature. So this is the microscopical image of emphysema. Here you can see the dilated air spaces. See all over, there is dilated air spaces. This is the bronchovascular bundle. So beside that, all the air spaces are dilated. This is also another image of emphysema where we can see dilated air spaces. So coming to the next one type of COPD, that is bronchitis, and this is the definition. Chronic bronchitis, there will be persistent cough with sputum production for at least 3 months for 2 consecutive years. So this is the what you have to remember: persistent cough, sputum for 3 months for at least 2 consecutive years. Then it will be called chronic bronchitis. So what is the pathogenesis? Here also cigarette smoking or noxious or irritable inhaled substances which can cause irritation in the respiratory tract, like tobacco smoke, dust from grain, cotton, silica. So all this will cause bronchitis. And cigarette smoking is the most important cause, and it leads to chronic inflammation in respiratory tract. The ciliary action of the respiratory bronchioles are affected and prevents the clearing of mucus. So due to infection, if there is accumulation of mucus, so that will not be cleared. Why? Because due to ciliary action impairment, the ciliary action is impaired. So what are the factors which contribute to chronic bronchitis? The factors are mucus hypersecretion. This is the earliest feature. So there will be more formation of mucus hypersecretion. Then there is also inflammation. The inflammatory mediators like histamine and interleukin-13, they are also actively involved. And smoking leads to acquired CFTR dysfunction. What is CFTR? Cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator. So there is dysfunction of this protein. It causes secretion of abnormal dehydrated mucus. So there is accumulation of mucus. And all this will cause inflammation. So in chronic bronchitis means inflammation of the bronchial tract. So there will be inflammation as well as infection. So what is the morphology? Morphology means grossly, if we see the lung. So what can we see? We can see mucosal edema. The bronchial walls are thickened and there will be mucus plugs. And in microscopy, we can see that there is submucosal gland enlargement and inflammatory infiltrate, means we can see inflammatory infiltrate like neutrophils, lymphocytes all are accumulated. So grossly there is hyperemia, swelling and edema of the mucous membrane of the respiratory tract. So this is the Read index. Read index is more than 50%. I'll come to it soon. So what is read index? Read index is a ratio. Index is always a ratio. So it is the ratio of thickness of mucous gland layer to thickness of wall between epithelium and cartilage. So this is the read index. So normally the read index is 0.4, but in chronic bronchitis it is increased. So there is also another term, bronchiolitis obliterans. What is that? So due to the excessive mucus plugging, inflammation and fibrosis, there will be obliteration of the lumen. So that is called bronchiolitis obliterans. So this is an image of mucosal gland hyperplasia. And here is an image of bronchus with chronic inflammatory cells. Chronic inflammatory cells in the submucosa, lymphocytes, plasma cells, all these are increased. This is a schematic differentiation between bronchitis and emphysema. So here mainly we can see that there is dyspnea, cough, infections, and cor pulmonale is common in bronchitis, and airway resistance is increased in bronchitis, and in emphysema it may be normal or it may be slightly increased. So what are the complications? Complications of COPD is respiratory failure. There will be secondary polycythemia, cor pulmonale and recurrent infections. So these are the complications of COPD. So coming to the key concepts. So we have learned about COPD. So what are the key concepts? The key concepts are, it is most common in tobacco smokers. That is very important. And in emphysema, there is COPD follows a centroacinar distribution, permanent enlargement of airspace. This is important. And there will be tissue destruction caused by elastase and oxidants released from inflammatory cells, particularly neutrophils. And in chronic bronchitis, as I said, persistent cough for at least 3 consecutive months in at least 2 consecutive years. And the dominant features are mucus hypersecretion and due to enlargement of mucus secreting glands and chronic inflammation. So this is in gist about COPD, which you should remember. So coming to the next airway, obstructive airway disease is asthma. Asthma is very common. You have seen children suffering from asthma, elderly persons suffering from asthma. So what is the definition of asthma? It is a heterogeneous disease characterized by chronic airway inflammation and variable expiratory airflow obstruction. So chronic chronic airway inflammation and expiratory airflow obstruction, and it causes symptoms like wheezing, shortness of breath, chest tightness, cough, this all you know. And status asthmaticus, it is acute severe asthma, status asthmaticus, and it can be very fatal. So what are the severity? According to severity, we can classify asthma as intermittent, mild persistent, moderate persistent and severe persistent. So what is the pathogenesis? How does asthma occur? It is due to Th2, T helper 2 mediated inflammation. So there is inflammation. IgE, immunoglobulin E production. It is very important. IgE production, mast cell degranulation. And as I said earlier, airway hyperresponsiveness. It is very important. So IgE production, mast cell degranulation, airway hyperresponsiveness. So this is the image of normal airway as we can see. But in asthma, you can see that there is you can see the difference. Here, see the epithelium, basement membrane, all is intact. But in the next image, you can see there is increase in eosinophil. In asthma patients, eosinophil is very high. Eosinophilia, there will be secretion of mucus. See, mucus is secreted. There are macrophages, mast cells, neutrophils, lymphocytes. All these are inflammatory cells. So asthma has many clinical phenotypes. One is atopic, another one is non-atopic. So in atopic, there is allergen sensitization and immune activation. Often in patients with eczema or allergic rhinitis, that is atopic asthma. And another is non-atopic, where there is no allergen involvement. So atopic asthma, it is type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, IgE mediated. It begins in childhood and it is due to allergens. So what are the allergens? Like dust, pollen, cockroach or animal dander and food. So, and mostly due to some respiratory viral infections and positive family history. In the same family, the parents may be involved or siblings may be involved. So in atopic asthma, family history is positive. Another type is non-atopic asthma. So in non-atopic asthma, it is mostly due to respiratory infections like rhinovirus, parainfluenza virus. The virus infection is common in non-atopic asthma. Another type of asthma is drug induced. It is due to aspirin and related drugs which causes asthma. And occupational asthma, like people working in many factories where there is fume production or there is organic and chemical dust, they are inhaling some types of gases like toluene, or they are working with some chemicals like formaldehyde which may trigger asthma. So what is the pathogenesis? Pathogenesis we have already studied in the previous slide. So as I said, Th2 mediated IgE is involved, airway inflammation, airway dysfunction due to inflammatory mediators. Inflammatory mediators and which causes airway remodeling. Now what is airway remodeling? This is an important term. See, over time, repeated bouts of allergen exposure and immune reaction. So, allergen exposure and immune reactions, it causes changes in the bronchial wall. So, that is called airway remodeling. That means the airway is remodeled apart from the normal morphology. So, genetic susceptibility is also there, positive family history. So, asthma is also occurs due to genetic predisposition as well. And a susceptibility locus of asthma is located on chromosome 5q, and the cytokines are also involved, like all the interleukins 3, 4, 5, 9, 13, and interleukin 13 gene is most important. Environmental factors is very important in asthma, especially people who live in cities. They are common target for asthma if there is airway hyperresponsiveness, because the airway pollutants serve as allergen and it triggers the Th2 response. So what is the morphology? So similar to bronchitis, there is hypersecretion of mucus. So there will be formation of mucus plugs, thickened bronchial walls, and the lungs will be hyperinflated. And in microscopy, we can see basement membrane thickening, smooth muscle hypertrophy, eosinophilic infiltration. I have showed you an image where we could see that there is eosinophil accumulation in the cells. And Cashman spirals and Charcot-Leyden crystals. This is very important. This is specific of asthma. Cashman spiral and Charcot-Leyden crystals. So what is Cashman's spirals? A characteristic finding in sputum or bronchoalveolar lavage specimen of patients with atopic asthma is Cashman spiral. So what is that? It results from extrusion of mucus plugs from subepithelial mucus gland ducts or bronchioles. So it is Cashman spiral. And what is Charcot-Leyden crystals? It is composed of eosinophil derived protein galactine 10. So present are numerous eosinophils and Charcot-Leyden crystals which are composed of eosinophil derived protein galactine 10. So these two are very specific and important for asthma patients. Airway remodeling we just spoke about. So the features are thickening of airway wall, sub-basement membrane fibrosis, increased vascularity, increase in size of submucosal glands, and airway goblet cells are also increased, and hypertrophy and hyperplasia of the bronchial wall muscle. So these are the features of airway remodeling. This is an image of microscopic image of a patient with asthma. Here we can see the eosinophil plaque, detached epithelium, subepithelium thickening, smooth muscle hyperplasia, hypertrophy, and marked inflammatory infiltrate. This is all what we can see in a patient with asthma. So what are the complications? As I said, acute severe asthma, status asthmaticus. It is very fatal. There may be respiratory failure, airway remodeling, and rarely formation of pneumothorax. So these are the complications of asthma. So what are the key concepts? After we have studied about asthma, what are the key concepts? So this is reversible bronchoconstriction. Reversible bronchoconstriction caused by airway hyperresponsiveness to variety of stimuli, and atopic asthma caused by Th2 IgE mediated immunologic reaction. So the cytokines involved are IL-4, 5, 13. These are important. And non-atopic asthma is due to inhaled air pollutants. Eosinophils are the key inflammatory cells. As I said, eosinophilia is common in asthma, so eosinophils are very important. And airway remodeling, as I have said, so this adds an irreversible component to the obstructive disease. So this is all about asthma. Now this is the final part of obstructive airway disease. So today what we have studied COPD comprising of emphysema, chronic bronchitis and asthma. Now we will study bronchiectasis. So what is bronchiectasis? It is a disorder in which there is destruction of smooth muscle and elastic tissue of the lung. Lung has elastic recoil, so the smooth muscle of the lung is destroyed. There is loss of elastic recoil caused by inflammation due to infection. So when there is infection, there is inflammation, and inflammation will lead to destruction of smooth muscle and elastic tissue. And there is permanent dilation of the bronchi and bronchioles, permanent dilation. So this is the definition of bronchiectasis. So what is the etiology? What are the causes? So the causes can be infection, means after infection there can be bronchiectasis. After tuberculosis or pneumonia we can have bronchiectasis. Cystic fibrosis, After that, we can have bronchiectasis, then primary ciliary dyskinesia, or any obstruction due to tumor or foreign body. So this is the etiology of bronchiectasis. What is the pathogenesis? So pathogenesis is obstruction and infection. These are the two major conditions of bronchiectasis, obstruction and infection. So the infection, it is due to defect in airway clearance. So there is defect in airway clearance. Allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. So Aspergillus fumigatus, it is a fungus, so it causes allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. It occurs in patients with asthma or cystic fibrosis. So after that, there is development of bronchiectasis. So this is called ABPA, allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. What is the morphology? Means grossly what we can see. If we have a lung in front of us, what is the gross features? So the gross feature is bronchial dilatation. There will be inflammatory changes, suppurative inflammation, and destruction of bronchial wall components. So it affects mostly the lower lobes. The airways are dilated up to 4 times, mean it is very much dilated. So on the cut surface of lung, we can see that the dilated bronchi appear cystic and it is filled with mucopurulent secretions. So this is an image of cut surface of lung where we can see that there is markedly distended peripheral bronchiole filled with mucopurulent secretion. This is another image of dilated airways where there is mucoid deposition. Here we can see dilated airways. These arrows represent dilated airways. So the histologic findings vary according to the severity of the disease. Acute and chronic inflammatory exudate formation and Haemophilus influenzae is found in almost half of the patients, and Pseudomonas aeruginosa, it is also found in 12 to 30% of sputum cultures. So Haemophilus is very important, Haemophilus influenzae. This is an image where we can see dilated bronchioles with diffuse inflammation and mucus plugging. This is an histological image. So what are the complications of bronchiectasis? So there can be massive hemoptysis, means the patient can cough out blood. Brain abscess can occur and rarely amyloidosis can develop. So coming to evaluation. So the evaluation of obstructive airway disease, it is mostly by spirometry. This is the gold standard. So pulmonary function test, as I told you in previous slide, that how can we distinguish between the diseases? It is by pulmonary function test. So spirometry, bronchodilator reversibility test, and plethysmography. So spirometry is very important. It measures how much air you breathe out and how fast. It confirms the diagnosis and categorizes the airflow inflammation, airflow limitation, and it distinguishes between obstructive and restrictive diseases, and bronchodilator reversibility test and plethysmography. These are the pulmonary function tests. So in pulmonary function test, there will be reduced FEV1 by FVC ratio, that is 0.7, less than 70%, increased residual volume and total lung capacity because there is hyperinflation, and reversibility testing in asthma. So clinically, we can assess the diseases by symptom score. For COPD, there is the COPD assessment test or modified Medical Research Council dyspnea scale asthma control test. So these are some tests by which the obstructive airway disease can be evaluated, and also the history. The history is very important, like the duration, severity, all these are very important in assessing the disease. Imaging chest x-ray is important. Chest x-ray primary rules out between pneumonia, heart failure and COPD. As well as HRCT, high resolution CT of the chest is important. It provides detailed structural imaging. By CT, we can see the structure of the lung very accurately and identify emphysema or bronchial changes and bronchiectasis. There are some specialized blood and lab tests like alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency screening, which the American Lung Association has recommended for screening all the COPD patients. CBC, complete blood counts for elevated eosinophil, and arterial blood gas, ABG, is commonly done. So how we can differentiate between asthma and COPD? So in asthma, it occurs typically at young age. Symptoms are variable, linked to allergies and family history. And COPD, there is history of heavy smoking, long-term exposure to biomass fuels, progressive persistent decline in lung function. So we can differentiate between asthma and COPD. So the evaluation clinically, we can see that the patients have chronic cough, sputum production, dyspnea and wheezing.